Story 1: The Haunted TV at Buffalo Wild Wings. There's something deeply unsettling about hearing your name spoken in a place where no one knows you. But what if it wasn't spoken? What if it appeared on a screen? Bold and unmistakable. Accompanied by a message that made your skin crawl. That's exactly what happened to me and my friend Adam on a quiet Friday night. It was supposed to be a normal outing. Just two guys grabbing wings, catching a game, and enjoying some downtime. The Buffalo Wild Wings wasn't even our usual spot, just a random location we found while driving through a new town. At first, everything seemed fine. The air was filled with the chatter of other diners, the clatter of dishes, and the hum of sports commentary from the dozens of TVs lining the walls. We ordered, laughed, and relaxed, soaking in the lively atmosphere. But then, one of the TVs in front of us flickered. The screen went black. And for a moment, we thought it was just a glitch. But then, white text appeared against the dark background, sending a chill down my spine. "You are being watched." It had been Adam's idea to stop at Buffalo Wild Wings that night. We were driving back from a weekend road trip when hunger hit us both like a freight train. The neon-lit restaurant caught our attention. Its familiar logo promising comfort food and an escape from the monotony of the road. Inside, the atmosphere was exactly what you'd expect: bright, noisy, and alive with energy. TVs hung from every angle, showing a mix of sports games, highlights, and replays. The smell of fried food and tangy buffalo sauce wafted through the air. We found a booth near the back corner, slightly tucked away from the busiest parts of the restaurant. It was perfect, a little quieter but still close enough to see a massive screen showing the basketball game Adam was obsessed with. We ordered quickly, spicy wings for me, honey barbecue for Adam, and 2 tall beers to wash it all down. The waitress, a young woman with tired eyes and a forced smile, scribbled down our order and left without much small talk. "Looks like they're busy tonight," Adam remarked, nodding toward the bustling dining room.
"Yeah." She seemed a little frazzled, I replied, glancing around. Despite the crowd, something about the place felt off. I couldn't put my finger on it, but the energy didn't match the usual lively vibe I associated with Buffalo Wild Wings.
Our food arrived after what felt like an eternity. The waitress barely made eye contact as she set the plates down, mumbling a quick "enjoy" before hurrying off. Adam dove into his wings immediately. But I couldn't help noticing the strange behavior of the staff. They seemed kind of tense. "Don't you think?" I asked. Adam shrugged, too busy licking sauce off his fingers to respond. That's when it happened.
The massive TV in front of us, the one showing the basketball game, flickered. The image froze for a split second, then dissolved into static.
"Technical difficulties," Adam muttered, not even looking up. But then the screen went completely black. For a moment, I thought it had shut off entirely. But no, it was still on. White text began to appear. Slowly at first, then faster as the words scrawled themselves across the dark screen. "You are being watched." I froze, my fork halfway to my mouth. "Adam, do you see that?" "What?" He glanced up, his eyes widening as he read the message. "What the hell?" The words lingered for a few seconds before disappearing. The screen flickered again, returning to the basketball game as if nothing had happened. "Okay. That was weird," Adam said, leaning back in his seat. Probably just some dumb prank. Yeah. But how? I asked. And why us? Before Adam could answer, the screen flickered again. This time, the words were even more chilling. Hello. Your name. My name. In bold, glowing letters. I felt my stomach drop. This has to be a coincidence. I stammered, though I didn't believe it for a second. Adam's face turned pale as the text changed again, this time displaying his name. Hello. Adam. This isn't funny, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. How do they know our names? We looked around the restaurant, but no one else seemed to notice the strange messages. The other diners were engrossed in their food and conversations, oblivious to the nightmare unfolding at our booth. Our waitress passed by, and I flagged her down. Excuse me. Can I ask you something? She hesitated, her expression guarded. Sure. What's up? That TV. I said, pointing at the screen. It just displayed our names. Is that normal? Her eyes flicked to the screen, then back to me. She opened her mouth as if to say something, but then she stopped herself. I'm not sure, she said finally, her voice shaky. I'll ask someone about it. She walked away quickly, disappearing into the kitchen. By the time we finished eating, the TV had returned to its regular programming, but the damage was done. Adam and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. As we stepped into the parking lot, the night air felt heavier, almost oppressive. The glow of the restaurant's neon sign cast long shadows across the pavement. Let's just get out of here, Adam said, his voice tight with unease. We were halfway to my car when I heard it, a faint whisper. Your name. I froze, spinning around. Did you hear that? Adam nodded slowly. Yeah. Someone said your name. The whisper came again, clearer this time. Your name. Adam. Who's there? I called out, my voice trembling. No answer. We scanned the parking lot, but it was empty. Just rows of silent cars bathed in the dim glow of the streetlights. As we got into my car, I glanced back at the restaurant. For a moment, I thought I saw someone standing in one of the windows, their face obscured by shadows. Let's go, Adam urged, snapping me out of my trance. I started the engine and pulled out of the parking lot, my hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. The next morning, I couldn't shake the events of the previous night. I called the restaurant, hoping to get some answers.
Hi. I was there last night, and something strange happened with one of your TVs.
The manager on the other end sounded confused. I'm sorry, sir, but we haven't had any issues with our TVs. Are you sure it wasn't just a glitch? It wasn't a glitch, I insisted. It displayed our names. It said we were being watched. There was a long pause. I really don't know what to tell you, she said finally. We haven't had any other complaints. Her tone was polite but dismissive, and I hung up feeling even more unsettled. To this day, I don't know what happened at that Buffalo Wild Wings. Was it a prank? A coincidence? Or something far darker? I haven't been back to that restaurant, or any Buffalo Wild Wings, since. But sometimes, late at night, I catch myself glancing at my TV, half expecting it to flicker and display those same chilling words. You are being watched. Would you? Could you ignore that feeling of being watched? Or would it haunt you? Just like it haunts me? Story 2, Facebook Marketplace turns deadly. It's funny how a small decision, a seemingly innocent one, can change everything. Buying a laptop should have been simple. It was just a quick scroll through Facebook Marketplace. A few messages exchanged. And a short trip to pick it up. Nothing unusual. Nothing dangerous. But what if that decision led to the darkest night of your life? I never thought twice about the seller when I first messaged him. His name was Brian. His profile was unremarkable, pictures of a dog, a car, a hiking trip. His responses were polite and quick. It seemed safe. The meeting was set for the middle of the day. In a busy parking lot. What could go wrong? But when he didn't show up and later blocked me, I assumed it was over. It wasn't. Hours later, while my sister and I were relaxing at home, we realized Brian hadn't just canceled the deal. He had followed us home. And by the time we heard the creak of the back door opening, it was too late to stop what was coming. My old laptop had been dying a slow death for months. The fan roared like a jet engine every time I opened a browser. And the screen flickered ominously if I moved it even slightly. It wasn't ideal. But as a college student, I didn't exactly have the funds to buy a brand new replacement. You've got to do something about that thing, my sister, Emily, said one evening. It sounds like it's about to take off. I sighed, running my hand through my hair. I know. I just can't afford anything right now. Have you tried Facebook Marketplace? She asked. The suggestion made sense. I'd used the platform before to sell old textbooks and buy a used desk for my dorm room. It was easy, convenient, and full of deals. That night, I browsed through countless listings. Most were overpriced. But then I found it, a sleek, almost new laptop with perfect specs. Listed for only $800. The seller's profile looked legitimate. And his reviews from past transactions were positive. I sent a message immediately, "Hi. Is this still available?" The response came within minutes, "Yes. Still available. I can meet tomorrow afternoon if that works for you." The seller introduced himself as Brian. His profile photo showed a man in his mid-30s, smiling with a golden retriever. He seemed friendly and normal. After confirming the details, I told Emily about the plan. She insisted on coming with me. "You can never be too careful," she said. Looking back, I'm grateful she did. The next day, we arrived at the meeting spot, a busy shopping center parking lot, at exactly 2 p.m. The sun was bright, and the lot was crowded with shoppers going in and out of stores. It felt safe. I messaged Brian to let him know we had arrived. "We're here. Parked near the entrance." 15 minutes passed. Then 30. "Are you sure this guy's coming?" Emily asked, tapping her fingers on the dashboard. I checked my phone again. The message I'd sent to Brian had been marked as read, but there was no reply. "Maybe he's stuck in traffic," I said, trying to stay optimistic. But deep down, I felt a flicker of doubt. Another 10 minutes passed. And I sent another message, "Hey. Just checking if you're still coming." This time, the message didn't deliver. I clicked on Brian's profile, only to find that it had vanished. He had blocked me. Unbelievable, I muttered. Emily frowned. What kind of person sets up a meeting and then just ghosts you? Frustrated, we decided to leave. As we pulled out of the parking lot, I couldn't help but glance around, half expecting to see Brian's car. But there was no sign of him. By the time we got home, the whole ordeal seemed more annoying than alarming. Maybe he realized he could sell the laptop for more money, Emily suggested as we settled into the living room. Yeah. Probably. I agreed, though something about the situation didn't sit right with me. We spent the rest of the afternoon lounging around, watching movies, and scrolling through our phones. The house was quiet, our parents still at work, and the early evening sunlight cast a warm glow through the windows. It wasn't until night fell that the feeling of unease returned. Around 9 p.m., I went to the kitchen to grab a snack. As I passed by the window, I thought I saw movement in the backyard, a fleeting shadow. Gone almost as soon as I noticed it. I froze, staring out into the darkness. "Everything okay?" Emily called from the living room. "Yeah," I said, shaking my head. "I thought I saw something outside. But it's probably nothing." I brushed it off, convincing myself it was just my imagination. But the unease lingered. It was just after midnight when the first sound woke me, a faint creak, like someone stepping on a loose floorboard. I sat up in bed, straining to listen. The house was silent, except for the low hum of the refrigerator and the occasional groan of the pipes. Then I heard it again, a soft, deliberate creak, coming from downstairs. I grabbed my phone and tiptoed to Emily's room, my heart pounding. "Wake up," I whispered, shaking her shoulder. "What's going on?" she mumbled, half asleep. "I think someone's in the house," I said. That woke her up. She sat up quickly, her eyes wide with fear. We crept to the top of the stairs, peering into the darkness below. A faint light filtered through the curtains in the living room, casting long shadows across the floor.
That's when we heard it, a low thud, followed by the sound of the back door creaking open.
We bolted back to my room and locked the door, our breaths coming in shallow gasps. "Call the police," I whispered, handing Emily my phone.
She dialed with shaking fingers, her voice barely steady as she spoke to the operator. "Someone broke into our house. Please send help."
Meanwhile, I pressed my ear against the door, listening. The intruder's footsteps were slow and heavy, moving deliberately through the house. "They're coming upstairs," I whispered.
Emily's eyes filled with panic. "What do we do?"
"The window," I said, pointing to the one that overlooked the side yard. I carefully slid it open, wincing as the old frame creaked. Emily climbed out first, her feet landing softly on the grass below. Just as I was about to follow, the footsteps stopped outside the bedroom door. The doorknob rattled violently, followed by a heavy thud as the intruder tried to force it open. "Hurry," Emily whispered from below. I scrambled out the window just as the door burst open behind me. We ran across the yard to our neighbor's house, our bare feet slapping against the pavement. Mr. and Mrs. Harris, an older couple who lived next door, answered the door almost immediately. "What's going on?" Mr. Harris asked, his face filled with concern. "Someone broke into our house," I gasped. "We need to call the police." "They're already on their way," Emily said, showing him my phone. The Harrisas ushered us inside, locking the door behind us. From their living room window, we could see flashlights bobbing through the darkness as police officers arrived on the scene. They entered our house cautiously, guns drawn, Moments later, they emerged with a man in handcuffs. Even in the dim light, I recognized him.
It was Brian.
The police found Brian hiding in our basement. He had entered through the back door, carrying a duffel bag filled with duct tape, zip ties, and a knife. When they searched his car, parked a few streets away, they discovered more disturbing items: a hoodie, gloves, and photographs of our house. He had been watching us. The thought made my skin crawl. In the days that followed, I couldn't stop replaying the events in my mind. What if we hadn't heard him? What if we had stayed downstairs, unaware of the danger creeping closer? I deleted my Facebook account and vowed never to use Marketplace again. But no matter what I did, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Sometimes, late at night, I catch myself glancing out the window, half expecting to see Brian's shadow lurking in the yard. Would you ever feel safe again after something like this? Story 3: The Home Depot Encounter. What would you do if a routine trip to buy tools turned into a harrowing game of cat and mouse? Imagine this: you're walking through the aisles of a hardware store, browsing in peace, when you notice someone watching you, not just glancing in your direction, but following your every move. At first, you shrug it off as a coincidence. Maybe they're just shopping, like you.
But then they start getting closer. They follow you from aisle to aisle, their footsteps echoing just a little too closely behind yours. They try to talk to you, their tone unsettling. When you leave, you think you're free.
But they're waiting for you in the parking lot. This is exactly what happened to me during a quiet evening at Home Depot. A simple errand turned into a nightmare. One that still sends shivers down my spine whenever I think about it. By the time I realized how dangerous the situation was, it was almost too late. Would you have recognized the signs in time? It was a Friday evening, and I was feeling ambitious. I had spent weeks putting off a few home projects, replacing a leaky faucet, fixing a creaky cabinet door, and finally installing shelves in my garage. That night, I decided it was time to tackle my growing to-do list. Home Depot was the logical choice. It was close to my house, open late, and stocked with everything I needed. As I pulled into the parking lot, I noticed how quiet it was. Most of the spaces were empty, and the orange glow of the store's sign illuminated the dark lot. Inside, the atmosphere was similarly calm. A few employees wandered the aisles, restocking shelves or assisting the handful of customers who were still shopping. I grabbed a cart and began making my way through the store, checking off items from my mental list. I started in the plumbing section, scanning the rows of fittings and pipes for the parts one needed for my sink. That's when I noticed him. At first, it was just a peripheral awareness, a man lingering at the far end of the aisle, seemingly browsing. He was tall, maybe 6 feet 5 inches, wearing a gray hoodie and ripped jeans. His hair was unkempt, and his scruffy beard looked like it hadn't been trimmed in weeks. I thought nothing of it at first. After all, it was a public store, and he had every right to be there. But then, as I moved to the hardware section, he followed.
By the time I reached the aisle with the power tools, I couldn't ignore it anymore. The man was there again, standing at the opposite end, pretending to examine a drill set. Our eyes met briefly, and he nodded at me. "Hey," he said, his voice gruff.
"Hey," I replied curtly, trying not to engage. "Got a second?" he asked, taking a step closer. My stomach tightened. "What's up?" He scratched the back of his neck, looking sheepish. "You think you could lend me some money? Just a few bucks to get something to eat." I hesitated. The request felt strange, not just because he was asking for money in a hardware store, but because of the way he was looking at me. His eyes darting to the cart I was pushing, then back to me. "Sorry, man. I don't have any cash on me," I said, keeping my tone polite but firm. He frowned, muttered something under his breath, and walked away. Relieved, I turned back to my shopping, but I couldn't shake the feeling of his eyes on me. After that interaction, I made an effort to avoid him. I zigzagged through the store, moving to random aisles to throw him off. I even left my cart behind at one point, thinking it would make me harder to track. For a while, it seemed to work. I didn't see him again as I made my way to the checkout lanes. But just as I was paying for my items, I caught a glimpse of him in the corner of the store, standing near the restrooms. He wasn't shopping or browsing anymore, he was just standing there, watching me. I hurried through the transaction, my pulse quickening. "It's nothing," I told myself as I grabbed my bags and headed for the exit. "He's just a weird guy. It's over." I was wrong. The cool night air hit me as I stepped outside, and for a moment, I felt a sense of relief. The parking lot was still mostly empty, and my car was parked near the entrance. But as I approached my car, I saw him again. He was standing a few rows away, leaning casually against a light pole. My pace quickened. My keys were already in my hand, and I unlocked the car as I approached.
I didn't look at him, hoping he wouldn't follow.
But as I opened the driver's side door and started loading my bags into the passenger seat, I heard footsteps. "Hey," he called out. I turned, trying to keep my expression neutral. "Can I help you?" He was walking toward me now, his hands stuffed into his hoodie pockets. "Look, I just need a little help, man. A ride, maybe? Or some money. Anything you can spare." "I'm sorry," I said, stepping back toward my car. "I can't help you." His expression darkened. "Come on," he said, his tone sharper now. "Don't be like that." Before I could respond, he lunged forward, grabbing the edge of my car door. "Get out of the car," he demanded, his voice low and menacing. My heart was pounding now, adrenaline surging through my veins. "Let go," I shouted, shoving the door closed as hard as I could. The man stumbled back, cursing under his breath. I jumped into the driver's seat, slamming the door and locking it in one swift motion. My hands fumbled as I started the engine, but the roar of the car brought a rush of relief. The man ran to the passenger side, trying to open the door. When that didn't work, he began pounding on the window. "Open the door," he yelled. I didn't think. I just acted, throwing the car into reverse. I backed out of the parking space as quickly as I could, narrowly avoiding another car. The man chased after me, but I didn't stop. As I sped toward the exit, I glanced in the rearview mirror and saw him standing in the middle of the lot, watching me leave. I didn't stop driving until I was safely back home, my hand still shaking as I pulled into the driveway. The next day, I reported the incident to the store manager and the local police. They assured me they would review the security footage and keep an eye out for the man.
But that didn't ease my nerves.
For weeks,
I found myself looking over my shoulder every time I left the house. Every shadow, every stranger in a parking lot, felt like a potential threat.
I never went back to that Home Depot. Even now, I can't step into a hardware store without feeling a twinge of anxiety. The memory of that man, his cold stare, his aggressive demeanor, haunts me. What would you have done in my place? Would you have recognized the danger in time? Or would you have hesitated?
I'll never know what might have happened if I hadn't gotten away. But one thing is certain, I'll never let my guard down again.
As I sit here now, typing out this story, I can't shake the feeling that someone, was watching us that night. Maybe it was just an elaborate prank. Some kind of high-tech trick. But then why did the waitress react the way she did? Why did she look like she wanted to say something but stopped herself? And most of all, who whispered our names in the parking lot? Maybe it was just a one-time occurrence. A glitch in reality that targeted us for reasons we'll never understand. Or maybe, somewhere out there, someone is still watching. Still waiting. What do you think? Was it just a coincidence? Or is there something much more sinister happening behind the screens? Drop your theories in the comments. I want to hear what you'd do if your name suddenly appeared on a TV with a warning meant just for you. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Wolf Tells for more bone-chilling tales. Until next time, watch your screens. You never know who might be watching you.